Joining us now, Chris LaCivita. He is one of the number one Republican GOP consultants of all time, and he's from Richmond, and he's with us now. Chris, great to have you.
John, thanks. You're way too kind.
Just trucking the truth, baby. That's it. You are the man. When things get tough. I remember at the convention in 2016, I was the chairman of Virginia, and at the convention in 2016, it was getting a little antsy there because Cuccinelli was trying to steal the votes and go to the unbind thing, and who'd they call in? I get a call from LaCivita. He's like, okay, I got to work the convention for Trump. Tell me what's going on with this Cuccinelli scheme that's going on. So they sent you there. So that's what happens. Now, you've got a major political action committee that just hit.
Right.
Tell us about it.
The group is called, and folks may have seen it, it's called Preserve America, and it's a super PAC. It's a national super PAC that is obviously geared toward one thing, and its mission is relatively simple, which is to define Joe Biden. So we've been doing that in the battleground states, in Arizona, all through TV advertising and digital advertising, but we've been engaged in Arizona, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Florida, heavily, Iowa, Wisconsin. Been in Wisconsin twice. Filmed a TV ad in Kenosha. So really, it's all the main battleground states, and we've up to this point in time, as of tomorrow, we will have spent in a little under 2 months $80 million. We've got some It's a pretty serious endeavor, and puts us right there at the top in terms of spending. And again, it's they're all contrast spots. We started off with a series of TV ads. One was a police detective whose daughter was killed because he was a cop, and he's basically talking about the whole defund police movement and how Biden has basically stood silent. We have a young Hispanic woman whose husband was a police officer and murdered, and that was an ad that we ran. We just finished running an ad with the Mueller family. Their daughter Kayla was kidnapped by ISIS and murdered, and so these are very emotional stories. And these are most of these are 1 minute ads, so it gives us a little bit more time to communicate the actual message. So it costs money to be able to buy that kind of airtime, and we don't talk about our donors, but we have a few very generous people who really believe that the truth about Joe Biden needs to be told. So we're very, very much engaged.
$80 million you've spent and you've only been in operation a month. So this thing, there's
a little
no
over,
BS
yeah, but basically,
I mean, 6 weeks. Just a little over a month, but $80 million. You guys have hit the ground running here. So you really want to make a difference. A lot of these PACs, you always wonder about what the real objective is. It seems like your PAC, the objective is to move the needle for Trump big time, quickly, right?
The only objective,
right?
It's the only objective, and it's a very again it's a between now and election day, the messaging, and of course we're hearing a whole lot about the race is over, and of course this was nothing, just rewind 4 years ago, and it's almost the same exact message that was being pushed on us. But and we see, we do our own polling in all the battleground states, and we see data that is the complete opposite of what I think a lot of these national press polls are showing, which are basically conducted by their marketing department. So it's frustrating at times, when you see what's being pushed out there, but Americans will see through it. And again, we have a a clear, defined mission, and we're executing it. So,
Chris LaCivita with us. What's your title there at the PAC?
I'm the president of it.
Do you have
the titles
so,
are inconsequential.
Yeah, I know, but I have to say it. I have to say it on the air. Chris LaCivita, the president of the Preserve America Super PAC, trying to define Joe Biden. But I tell you what, when you get to these polls, you're right, because, of course, I get to look at the numbers in Virginia. They're much different than you get in some of the national media, because those are marketing polls. We show it about 3.5 here. But what I've heard is we're pulling ahead in Florida. We look good in Wisconsin. We got a shot in Michigan. We're up in Minnesota. We're tied in Pennsylvania. So a lot of the internal polls showing great movement for Trump. And he's been able to do that without we haven't really had anything defining Biden. I mean, this is really the first super PAC that's done that, right?
I mean, 100%, yes. The president's super PAC's done a pretty good job earlier on. That's America First, and we work very closely with them. Of course, Linda McMahon runs that PAC. She's a longtime dear friend of mine, and we talk regularly. But for the sheer volume in the spate of time that we've been engaged, no one's been able to match what we've done. But
$80 million, $80 million in 5 months. You get all these 1 minute. I also love the fact that you're doing 1 minute ads. I mean, that's the thing of the pay. Everybody's doing the 30-second ads now because they save money or whatever. But they get more ads in. But you can't really. There's certain things you just can't do in 30 seconds.
No.
1 minute. No. 1 minute justifies it, right? Gives it the justice.
It does. I mean, I think you could go to preserveamericapac.com and check out some of our ads. They're up online, and you'll see the difference. 1 minute it allows you to convey emotion, allows you to convey a lot of things that you just can't do in 73 words, which in 73 words is what you get in a 30-second ad. And it's also important that to convey that in all of our ads, these are not actors. These are real people in the real world who have, a story to tell. So that's an important component of it as well. But again, I mean, and like I was saying earlier, we work very closely with the super PAC, the other super PACs that are out there, so that we all have an idea of what we're doing and where and those types of things. But we hope to keep it going until Election Day and make a difference.
All right, I'm going to name off some states. You tell me where we are. Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're in a good. Look, I'm not going to give specifics on polling data on the radio.
I just want to just overall. Yeah, just overall.
I think we're in a very. I feel very, very good about Arizona, as well as the Senate race that's going on in Arizona. So I think that's we're in a really good spot. Again, these are things that it's the 1st of October, right? And so we've got a little over a month left, but we got to keep the pressure on.
So I just saw a poll says we're tied in Nevada. True?
I haven't. I don't know. I'm not doing anything in Nevada. I haven't seen.
I saw that today. That just came out. You think we have an outside shot in Virginia?
In Virginia's tough. We have not polled here, just so you know. So I'm not. I have no data, and from what I see, out and about, and I was just out in West Virginia because the governor out there is a client of mine. We do a lot of work for, and just the sheer volume of Trump pen signs, it's crazy. It looks like the Scranton area and the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. I mean, there's signs everywhere. But I don't have any data that shows anything. I have as my gut instinct. Virginia, we're watching it very closely because it's such a late breaking state. And I think anyone with any experience in Virginia knows in elections that the Commonwealth always breaks late. The undecideds break late, so you have to be in a position to take advantage of that. And I think that's what a lot of us are waiting to see. Rest assured, if we see it breaking where we want it to break, we're going to be there to pile on.
Well, I think it's moving in our direction. I mean, you just saw the rally we had on Friday
That
night.
was great.
Chris LaCivita with us, 14,000 people, 2,000 turned away. Expected 3,500 to 5 is what they told us. I mean, you can just see the enthusiasm. Also, the vice president making a surprise appearance. You know, they don't make these kind of decisions to do it if they think it's a waste of time. They got better things to do. So he came, the president came. I think we got tremendous momentum here. I think we got a shot. You know, the one poll that
Clearly.
came out had us, I guess, CNU, which is always skewed towards the Dems, had us down by 5. And we have a superior ground game here. We've knocked on 320,000 doors. They haven't knocked on any, 0. So that's worth maybe 2%. So I put the thing within like 2.5 to 3. I think we got a heck of a shot here.
Yeah, look, the fact that the Biden campaign literally has no effort whatsoever aimed at the ground, and it's sort of I mean, it's kind of hard to do it from the basement of one's home, but you know, the fact remains that those even in a pandemic, there are things that you can do safely and you know, in order to have a multi-dimensional campaign.
Right.
It's very difficult. You know, you've got to have more than one effort aimed at turning out and targeting your voters. And, you know, the Biden campaign is just relying on TV, you know.
Well, it's just they have no ground game whatsoever, 0. They've knocked on 0 doors, not only in Virginia, Chris, but across the country, 0.
Right.
They can't knock on doors because it's counter to their fear narrative of COVID, bad, stay home, might die. So if you can't go to school and you can't open up your business and you can't make a living and you can't save your downtown storefront, obviously you can't knock on doors. So they're in a bind. They can't do it, and their people aren't going to do it. And so we have it all to ourselves. You know, what is that worth? Average, you know, in your business, I've heard that a ground game can be up to 2%. So you add 2% on to anything you have if you have the available people like we have. We've been knocking on doors for months. They haven't done any. I mean, I think that shows up. Let's talk about them stealing the election. I just want to get your take here.
Right.
We're with Chris LaCivita, longtime GOP consultant, one of the stars in the industry now. He's the president of a new PAC, PreserveAmericaPAC.com. You can follow it there, see the ads. They've spent, not raised, they've spent $80 million, and they've been in operation about 5 weeks in key battleground states. So when you talk to the Trump campaign, our goal is to run up the score on game day, be headed in all these states, and then, of course, the Democratic ballots start to come in by mail. We expect almost 50% of their ballots to be mailed. They start coming in, but then there's going to be boxes that are going to be found. Pallets will be found in different places. All the things that you just saw in Minnesota. Does the Trump campaign, does the Republican apparatus have enough attorneys in place and poll watchers to stop the fraud?
Well, so as far as the Trump campaign, I mean, obviously, I don't have any conversations with them because
you can't talk to them.
But yeah, and haven't. But I will tell you this: the guy who's running it running that part of the campaign for them, the deputy campaign manager, Justin Clark. He's a very, very good friend of mine. We go way back. We've done a lot of races in Connecticut and other places together. And he is a campaign finance lawyer, campaign finance expert, and he's a political operative. So that's a hell of a combination. And he's, you know, usually you don't go to a campaign lawyer for political advice. He's one of those guys you can. So he's able to understand that. He's the one, I think, he's the one running that whole apparatus, part of the, you know, filing the injunctions and battling it out in the states. And that's been a project that they've been working on for months. So from the campaign side, obviously, I feel that, you know, they really have a pretty good handle on that to the extent that they can, right? I mean, in the state GOPs, there are some state Republican parties that are really good and there are some that are really bad. And you know, I think in Virginia we're kind of in the middle. We're trying to fix a lot of things, but you know, there's a lot of things we don't control. California has been you know, voting by mail for years. You know, I did a race in 2014 a U.S. House race in Sacramento, and we won Election Day by 6 points. So Election Day, we won. The 6 points. 250,000 ballots showed up 2 weeks later, or 125,000, something. It was several 100,000 ballots had shown up a couple weeks later, and we ended up losing the election by 1,400 votes. I call that institutionalized bank robbery, right? Mm-hmm. And just because it came out of nowhere, and it wasn't so much that it was dead people casting ballots as it's ballot harvesting, which is what you see going on now in Minnesota. Ballot harvesting is something that in a lot of places that have long established voting by mail, the Democrats are really good at it. But in California, it's not going to make a difference. It's not like we're planning on winning that state anyway. Mm-hmm. It's battleground states like Colorado but Colorado, look, there's always going to be irregularities. I mean, the fact that how much of it is intentional and how much of it is just pure stupidity and idiocy. I'm one of these people that I don't necessarily believe in coincidences in politics. I mean, the fact that you had 1,000 ballots, or at least it was over 400 ballots that were mailed out in Virginia and people had 2 ballots in them. Mm-hmm. And it's all of a sudden a Jan printer's fault. I mean, I don't know. It's just it just doesn't feel good. You got to stay on top of that stuff.
How in California? How did the ballots come in 2 weeks after? I mean, isn't there a deadline to have them in, or did they just did they just figure out how many they need to win and then gather them up?
What they do, they do that anyway. But what it is that they have to be mailed. I'm trying to remember. They have to be postmarked by Election Day, mm-hmm. right? So they can show up a week later, 10 days later, as long as they have the proper postmark, on Election Day, then it's fine. And then they start counting them, as they come in. And then what they do is they keep the ballots segregated until until a certain period of time, and then they open them all up. And
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, and then the harvesting comes in where they're not even mailed, right? I mean, they're mailed out, and then you go and knock on doors and you collect them. And like you saw in Minnesota, you had the guy with walking around money, which is the old term for the political bosses in the wars, right? Chicago and New York, Boss Tweed is called walking around. They have walking around money, and they're like, hey, I'll give you $10. Go find your ballot. Oh, you're on the dining room table here. Hey, go fill it out. Put Elon's name on it. Here's $15. I mean, and then they put it in a box, and they figure out how many they need to win, and then they drop them off. I mean, are you kidding me? Yeah. It's like Joseph Stalin said, it's not who votes, it's who counts the votes. Chris LaCivita kicking butt, $80 million in 5 weeks. Real ads, I tell you what, anything you get involved in is like you nail it. I mean, there's no messing around. So we look forward to having you back. Keep your eye on VA. Keep us posted.